Hey, it's Mike over at fishyourassoff.com, and today what we're talking about is catching redfish with popping corks, red fishing with popping corks. So this is kind of a strange way to fish. I mean, I always thought so. The first time I ever saw anyone fishing this way, I was in the panhandle of Florida, and I saw these boys out there, just crushing trout. I couldn't believe it. So I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm out there fishing with my jigs and doing my little thing, and they were catching 3 or 4 to 1 trout over me using about this much leader and a popping cork, and I think they had a fake shrimp or probably the same sort of jig that I was using. And I was like, what in the heck is wrong with this world? Well, it didn't take me long to go get myself a popping cork and start catching fish too. You can catch redfish this way. You can catch trout this way. You can catch speckled trout. You can catch black drum this way. You can catch so many different kinds of, I've caught snook this way. You can catch all kinds of fish like this. The cork itself just attracts the fish. They're like, wait, what is that? Because predators are curious. Hey, what is that? Oh, there's food. And they eat it. I'm telling you what, it works so well that it's crazy. Especially in real skinny water. If you're in 3 feet or less of water and you're targeting redfish, it is one of the best ways that you can catch them. Flounder too. Flounder, it's a great way to catch flounder too. But yeah, you know what? Let me just cover what I'm talking about. Okay, so when you are fishing with these popping corks, here's some of your best bets as far as what to have underneath the popping cork if you want to fish with live baits. Shrimp. Can't go wrong with shrimp. Everything eats shrimp. Mud minnows if you can catch them. Pinfish if you can catch them. Both of those kind of fish are ones that swim straight down. Mud minnows and pinfish. So you got to make sure your leader is short enough where they can't get to the oysters or grass or whatever. You don't want them burying down in anything so the fish can't find them, so the redfish can't find them. So those are ones that are going to go straight down. Any sort of white baits underneath there. White bait is any fish that's basically silvery fish with a dark back. Menhaden, threadfin herring, sardines. You kind of get the idea. Those kind of fish are all considered white baits. And crabs, don't forget crabs. Little blue crabs are great. Fiddler crabs are great. Mangrove crabs are great. Those little mud crabs are great. All these different baits will work very well for catching redfish. And I'm going to show you some different types of actual popping corks that there are. So here's one. This shape right here. It's got rattles in it. So it makes the noise. The rattles are inside of it instead of being outside on a piece of wire. So that's a very subtle type of cork, and sometimes the redfish are real spooky and finicky, so you want something a little more subtle maybe. Another subtle one is this. Doesn't have any sound, right? But it does have the concave top, so when you need to give it a pop every now and again, it's going to make that low frequency vibration that's so attractive to fish. So this doesn't have any noise maker except for the concavity of the top of the bobber here, okay? No noise, right? For finicky fish. Now, sometimes you want to make as much noise as you possibly can. And here's a good style for that. See how it's weighted at the bottom? It's basically, got a pier, what do you call those things? For catching bass. If you want to set up your Carolina rig or your Texas rig, it's got that kind of bullet weight. That's what I'm thinking of. And it's got a couple of beads here. That thing's super noisy. All right. So when they're not real spooky, these noisy ones are great because it really attracts them in from quite a distance too. These are great for that. Here's another one. If you really just don't need to cast very far, just have a smaller profile type of bobber here. This is when they're super close, where you're basically underhand casting to them. This is another great one to have. Super noisy. And I make my own because I'm cheap. So I just got this, on a piece of wire with the bullet weight, and I have a barrel swivel on top and bottom, so you don't get all twisted up with your line, things like that. Subtle, another subtle one. But when you're fishing with these, you're going to have some sort of situation where you have your popping cork right here, and you probably, you could do it in deeper water, but the whole idea of it is a redfish spends his whole life just rooting around in the mangroves and the grass and the mud and the whatever, rooting around in that stuff. They're eating marine worms and crabs and shrimp and little fish. So they spend their life looking down for the most part. That's why if you ever catch fishing for them with top water, they miss it all the time. They're just not very good at getting to top water. But they're used to rooting around all the time with their heads down. So that's why you really want your presentation to be, within a few inches of the bottom. Here's the bottom. You want to have your presentation there. And this is how you set up. So I don't think I've ever used this with more than 36 inches of leader is my point. Because any deeper than that, I would probably be bouncing a jig off the bottom or something like that to catch those fish. I wouldn't be using this technique. But let me just show you some of the best ones that there are. As far as lures, you really cannot beat a gulp. You just can't. I mean, they're kind of pricey, but you cannot beat this. This is a swimming mullet, but there's also a 3-inch shrimp, and you really can't beat this. A redfish has such a evolved olfactory system. I mean, they actually have 4 nostrils. So that tells you that they spend their life in this kind of dark water. Their eyes are kind of small based on their body size too. So you can tell they're probably a fish that finds most of its food by smelling it or feeling it, the vibrations in the water, more so than their eyes. So they don't have to see it to be able to find it. In other words, they're very good. And if you haven't used this is the smelliest stuff in the world right here. So you do gulp first. This is your number one fake lure, right? This is your number one fake bait that you're going to use to catch a redfish on your popping cork. And all you're going to do, I use red jig heads, but you don't need much jig head. It's just got to stay there. So an 1/8 ounce jig head is just fine to just keep your bait down there. And as you pop it, it just whoop straight up and down. It's like a whoop like that in the water. And that's very attractive to these redfish. Here's another great fake shrimp. This is a DOA. You put this underneath the popping cork, you'll do just fine. Right there, it's a nice natural looking shrimp. Here's another brand. This is Charlie's. Another one. Now, what's great about these kind of baits too, these soft plastics, is the fish will hold on to this just a second or two longer. So you have more time to figure out that, to set the hook. Because sometimes your bobber's moving, but it's not going under because the way the fish just kind of grabbed it and went. You're like, is that the tide doing that or whatever? So this will make them hold on a little longer. These soft plastics like this. Doesn't have to be a shrimp. Here's another one of my go-to lures that I have tied on to one of my rods basically all the time. This is a very natural looking one, dark back, light sides and belly. And this is a white, well, this is glow actually, but white or glow is another one you want to use. Right like this. And this technique is just so simple. Okay, you cast to your spot. Pop, pop. Reel. Pop, pop, pop. Reel. I'm telling you, it is one of the easiest ways to fish and catch a lot of redfish too. Trout, flounder, all those different fish. You're just the pop, pop. You know, and if it's on a bank and the current's taking it perfectly down the bank or the oyster bar, don't even reel it. Just pop and let the current do the work for you. Pop, pop, pop. I'm telling you, it is an excellent way to target redfish, speckled trout, and flounder. Excellent, excellent. I suggest you do that. If that's your target species, if any of those three are your target species, do that. Now, when you're doing the trout, well, you can do it in 10 feet of water. You know, trout are one of those that they're not always hiding down in the grass. You know, a lot of times they're feeding towards the surface or they're in the middle part of the water column. You can still catch them. I wouldn't suggest 10 feet. I would use a jig, but you probably can. You know, my whole world is 6 feet to 1 feet. That's what I fish in. So I know it works really well in 5-6 feet of water. Just assuming it's going to work okay in 10 feet as long as they're up feeding over the top. You know, so if you have glass minnows or pilchards or something on top and you throw your popping cork in there, I'm sure you'll catch plenty of trout too. But I think that's it for today. I just wanted to cover red fishing with popping corks, and just it seems goofy. It seems like a goofy way to fish, but trust me when I tell you, you will catch some fish using this technique. It's weird, but it works, right? If you want to learn more, just go to our website. It's www.fishyourassoff.com. We have all kinds of how-to information. Whole site is simple tips to help fishermen catch more fish. But that's it for today. So until next time, we'll see you then. All right, bye-bye.